I'm so happy to live in a democracy. It's time for Must Have CTV, the podcast dedicated to the sitcoms of the 20th century, from Lassie to Frasier. I'm your TV guide, Barb Hardley. And when I am a man, which is majority of the time, I'm the editor in chief of Popeyes, the website coming to y'all from when you're listening to this couple weeks, hopefully. Uh, and say hello to the Donald, to my Anne Marie, because I'm the woman today. Ethan K. Hello, Ethan.
Hey Barb, it's good to see you. Glad you're back.
Oh my God.
Brett's been
It's been a,
hosting the show.
it's been a
We
little
haven't
bit.
had Barb content in forever. People are knocking on
Oh,
my door being like, "Where's Barb?" I'm
where
like,
is she?
"How,
I
how do you
want
know
to
where
be
I live?"
alone. Right now I'm currently molting. If you tune into YouTube, you'll see that I'm have a lovely boa that is just like, I don't want none of these feathers. Let me give all these feathers to your lap.
It's a
It is,
Halloween boa
yeah,
because you are wearing black and orange in addition to your purple sequin
purple
dress.
sequin gown, and I got my black gloves that have glittery warts on them, if you can see. Yeah, there we go.
Glittery
Well,
warts.
that's what I was like. Well, yeah. And then my green eyeshadow. Listen, it's spooky time. We're in spooky overdrive. And today we're going to be talking about two spooky things. But first, let's please everybody check out the Patreon. There we go.
Yes, we're go to patreon.com/slash must have seen TV. And not only will you be helping our little radio program on the internet, you will also be getting a whole boatload of extra content. We record an
Yes.
additional podcast every time we record Must Have Seen TV, and that podcast is called Must Have Now TV, and it only goes to our Patreon friends. How
Yeah.
crazy is that?
And let me tell you, y'all are gonna want to hear next week's bonus episode because we just recorded it, and I'm crazy tonight for some reason. I think I just got a whole lot of like pent up, sexy woman energy inside of me. That's just like coming out because y'all talk about repression. We'll be getting into all this. I was in Tennessee for a week. Oh boy. Uh,
I'm I'm really happy that we have people who are joining our Patreon. I'd like to give a shout out to Patrick,
oh yes.
who's a big fan who has reached out to us in the comment section of the Patreon with tons of great insights and questions. And he told me that he listened to our show on YouTube this whole weekend and just had nothing but nice things to say. So thank you for listening, Pat.
Yes. And thank you to our new subscriber, Cindy. I
Welcome,
got that
Cindy.
email. Very excited. Thank you so, so much. And let me tell y'all, with the bonus material that I found, not I don't even know what you found. What I found this week, it's going to be interesting stuff on the Patreon.
Now, I'm
And
really interested to hear that because the stuff that I found for that girl was, just a little bit of info about the election, but I want to hear what you found, what you had.
I'll be dribbling and drabbling it, be dripping and drabbing it all throughout the episode, baby. Because it's a bar party because there's lots of dripping and drabbing. Um, but also please leave reviews literally anywhere that you're interacting with us. Just do that. It'd be
We
really
love
nice.
them.
We love them. And it helps. But this week we'll be traveling to October 31st, 1968. Buckle up. I Station Zebra rolled the box office. Hey Jude by the Beatles topped the charts, and ABC aired the That Girl episode Secret Ballot. Ethan, you must have seen Secret Ballot before today.
I have not seen Secret Ballot before today.
What is your history with that girl? And were you here? We did a Thanksgiving episode.
We
That's
did
your
the
history
thanks
with that girl.
we did the Thanksgiving episode last year. Um it was a good I think it was a good episode. It was called
Thanksgiving comes once a year, either thankfully or hopefully, depending on where you're
Thankfully.
looking at it.
Yes. Um yeah, I only knew Marlo Thomas from Free to Be You and Me
I was going to say from St. Jude's.
from
Oh,
St. Jude's.
hey, Jude. Whoa.
Wait,
Number one song
number
this
one
week
song.
on this date in 1968.
This was also the date that Lyndon Johnson halted the bombing of North Vietnam
Hell yeah.
and Davy
so
Jones got married.
so this is what the context. So I can go ahead and start getting into some just like context and facts. This we are in the 1968 presidential election, which I do believe historical scholars probably could say, this is where it all started to go wrong, people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, baby.
this was the year of the 1968 Chicago Convention riot.
Tear gas
Um,
and some Vietnam
yeah,
protesters in Chicago.
where
And
Mayor Daley said that the police officer is here to preserve disorder, which was a mistake. That he didn't wasn't supposed to say that. It was a misstatement, but it was very accurate, and
yeesh.
people remember it to this day.
And I mean, symmetry. There have only been two Democratic conventions since then, 96 with Clinton, and then this year with Kamala Harris, who literally every single one of y'all have got to vote for. I don't, we'll get into like secret ballot stuff later. I don't give a shit. It's
Okay.
either that or we're not democracy, baby. I'm riding high.
Ooh.
This
So,
ain't no one's sponsoring this. But okay, my stuff. Okay. I was like, what is the context that this is aired in? So I was like, what were the headlines about Richard Nixon and Hubert Humphrey,
yep.
the Democrat nominee? Uh, so the Hubert news, you know, he didn't
Hubert news.
he didn't have a chance of winning with a name like Hubert. I'm sorry. If it was Herbert, absolutely. Hubert, I don't think so. Uh,
He sounds
Hubie,
like a store brand Herbert Hoover.
yeah, Hubert Humphrey,
We have
or
Herbert Hoover at home. The Herbert Hoover home is Hubert Humphrey.
or if it's like Hubie Halloween, Adam Sandler. Oh God, okay. I am doing the thing where I am navigating wearing
Wearing
gloves,
wearing gloves. You should never be doing that. You should. I'm sorry.
beautiful gloves. Okay, so Hubert Humphrey. This is the New York Daily News, I do believe, um, of the Washington Bureau. He on this day went to the New York's Garment District. Hubert was riding the October surprise this year was that Hubert was doing well. Apparently, he had a big turnaround. He was all of a sudden going to win a bunch of states. He was carrying New York, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Texas, Ohio, Illinois, Michigan, and New Jersey. So like work. So he went to a rally at the garment industry in New York, and he's quoted as saying, "I want you to vote twice," um, which you got to put into context because that is
You're not
wild.
supposed to. Yeah, you're
You're
not
not
supposed
supposed
to
to do
vote
that.
twice.
But what he meant was he would say, Humphrey then told them they could vote twice by going back home and then calling up a friend, relative, or neighbor and getting them to cast a ballot for the Democratic candidate. So, like, okay, you know, I mean,
That
we say the same thing now. It's like, text three of your friends in a battleground state, make sure they're registered.
yeah. Well, I'm registered. I'm pretty happy to say. I just checked that yesterday.
Oh, we got our stuff in the mail, so yeah, we are. I was like, oh God, I didn't check. Then the next one, I was like, well, what's Richard? What's old Tricky Dick up to? Uh,
Something probably racist.
so welcome to the parallel universe of 1968. So apparently the context was between Nixon, Humphrey, and George Wallace, the
Oh,
independent
I'm sorry.
candidate.
He's the racist one.
Yes, he won, I think, three southern states, so we love that. Not Tennessee, though, thank God. So Nixon urges Hubie to accept the popular vote. So Richard Nixon challenged Vice President Humphrey last night to join with him in a pledge to accept the decision of the American people and support whichever candidate received the highest popular vote in Tuesday's election. Because because Nixon wanted to avoid something if none of them reached 270 electoral votes. He wanted Humphrey to be like, well, I agree that whoever gets the most wins. Uh, which is wild that the Republican candidate is doing that
Yeah.
because that ain't the case.
That's very interesting.
Also, Nixon being like, do what's fair.
I happen to agree with Richard Nixon that it should be about the popular vote and not the electoral
Yeah,
college.
because Jesus fucking Christ. And then that's just, so let me see if there's anything else about the 1968 election, because that's the context within which this delightful little episode takes place.
Well, I think it's important to say that this was the last national election before the 26th Amendment was passed,
Mm-hmm.
which lowered the voting age to 18.
Because if you can
So,
die in Vietnam, you should be able to vote.
yeah, agreed.
That was what
Don't like it, but I mean that was what was being said.
yeah.
The whole point of this episode is Anne Marie, played by Marlo
Marlo
Thomas,
Thomas.
has is 21 years old, and this is her
Uh,
first presidential election that she can vote
Hold
in.
up a second, because I got research that I did about that age. Uh, this week on Must Have See TV, we're talking about the That Girl episode Secret Ballot. It is the 6th episode of season 3, and it was written by Richard Baer and directed by John Rich. Here's how Peacock describes the episode. Anne takes her responsibility to vote so seriously that it gets her into a spat with her father. Ethan, how accurate is that description?
100%.
Cool.
Hundo P.
So yes, the premise of this whole episode is that is Anne Marie's first time voting in a presidential election. Now, as That Girl a fan, seen multiple seasons, grew up loving the show, it helps to know that the 21 was the voting age, because before I knew that, I was like, there is no fucking way Anne Marie's 8 fucking teen or 21 at the no. So that helps. But
Because
even then,
she wasn't.
she was 30. She was almost 31. Her birthday's end of November. So she was 30, almost 31. And the whole conceit of That Girl is it is a young woman who is leaving her home on Long Island, right? Long Island, not upstate.
Yeah,
right?
Brewster, New York.
Brewster. That's Long Island. That's a real place. It's not like
Yeah, it's a real
Smallville.
place. It's a real, it's a real place.
It's her leaving home and becoming a working woman. Basically, she has a whole lot of odd jobs. She has a romantic partner who they are not married. They're not even engaged. And that was a big deal. And so it was like the proto Mary Tyler Moore show, TBH. So I was always like, there's no way that she's that young, because in season one's Christmas episode, Christmas and the Hard Luck Kid, which I've talked about on this podcast and is, I think, the second best Christmas episode of all time, second or third. It's amazing. That takes place 3 years earlier when she was teaching at a boarding school.
So at age 19.
So I was like, what is this? So I did some research and I did some number crunching to try and make this work. This is the comic book nerd in me of let's see if we figure out this multiverse. So, in order to make her as old as possible, we need to say that she was not eligible to vote in 1964. So she was 20 in November 1964.
Fair.
So, because we got to get her as old as possible, because doesn't make no sense that she's a 16-year-old teacher. So then I was like, when is Anne Marie's birthday? Luckily, season 1, episode 22, aired on February 9th. That's a birthday episode. And then season 4, episode 26, aired on March 26th, another birthday episode. So I think it's safe to say that her birthday is in late winter, early spring. Okay. So
February or March.
Yeah. Or, cut the difference. Early March. So that means that she turned 21 in spring 65.
Okay.
So she is 24 and a half in this episode, which means that she is 22 when season 1 starts, and therefore very what did I say? 19. But I also did Google how old did you have to be a boarding school teacher in 1964. But no,
did anything come up? Did any no?
Yeah, and AI was like, we don't have information to do that, but it looks like. I was like, no, thank you, AI. So Christmas and the Hard Luck Kid takes place in Christmas 1963. She's probably 19, but if you watch the episode, she's more like helping the kids run the school play. So it feels like she's more of a teacher's aide
Oh,
kind of
like
thing.
a
Like, like
yeah.
she's like working there to, so like she's not like running any, she's not, doesn't really have any power or nothing. So I think that
Mm,
that makes sense. And
okay.
so Anne Marie in this episode is 24 and a half. And that makes it make a lot more sense than 18,
Then her,
21.
then her being 21. Yeah.
Yeah. Because she's
Okay.
a woman. She's fully an adult. She's fully a capable adult.
Yes.
Maybe too capable.
And I would say that that was the theme of the show was that she was I don't want to say she was all alone in the city. She had a good support network,
And
but
Bernie Capel for a couple, like for
Bernie
there was a
Capel,
time when Bernie Capel was
Ruth
on That Girl
Buzzy,
Get Smart, like at the same time. Bernie Capel's everywhere.
uh, and she has her boyfriend, eventual fiance Don, um, played by Ted
Ted
Bessel,
Bessel.
who went on to be a director. Um, and she sees her parents very frequently, but it is about that she doesn't need help from a man to make her dreams come true.
It's very much like Marlo Thomas has 1960s Zoe Deschanel energy, I think.
Fair enough. I
That
get
like
that.
earnest, feminine earnest, but still like independent, sweet energy.
And it was really based on her as a person
Mm-hmm.
because she very famously, her father, Danny Thomas, mega producer,
Baraboo public enemy number one.
the star of the Danny Thomas Show, one of my favorite episodes that we did on Must Have Seen TV, producer of such great shows as Andy
Andy
Griffith,
Griffith.
um, and a whole bunch of stuff. So he, his daughter Marlo Thomas, was an actor. Sorry, I'm gonna get distracted by a little something. Um, she was an actor. She got a couple pilots that she read. She didn't like any of them. She said, I would like something that really just focuses on the things that I care about, which are me being um head bitch in charge.
Yes.
She gets this show. She ends up executive producing it, kind of like right out of the gate. She's starring in it, executive producing it, comes up with Daisy Productions, which is her own production company. And she is just this powerhouse of entertainment. She goes on to do Free to Be You and Me, which is a huge blockbuster in the 70s, works with the St. Jude Children's Hospital, which is something that her father was very involved in. And
Plays Rachel Green's mom on
yeah,
Friends. And then in season 3, Phoebe wears a That Girl t-shirt in the Thanksgiving episode. So I don't know what that's about.
yeah. So it really was based on her. It really is just a good example of Marlo Thomas is Marlo Thomas.
And so the episode starts with her as an undecided voter, basically because she is voting for the first time. She's taking it seriously. She keeps saying that it's like a sacred trust of a free society voting it.
Did you catch the cameo in the
Yeah.
opening scene where Anne Marie is at the local library? She has a whole bunch of books on voting, and she has magazines that she's
She's
brought.
getting
She
like
wants to,
congressional records. She's like, I want to compare what they've said with what's been proposed and like all this stuff, which this is the energy I like,
she's into
honestly.
voting. She is a super voter. She wants to know everything, and she talks to the librarian and asks for, where are the congressional records. She gets them. She's played by Florence Hallop.
Who ends up being on Night Court. That's where I remembered her.
Ah, there you go.
But then the other one was Penny fucking Marshall.
Yeah, she only had one line
Yeah.
where the librarian watches Anne Marie walk away and she says, "That's the future of that girl's the future of America."
Who? That
And then
girl.
every episode started with that. Who? And then the other person says, "That
That
girl,"
girl. And then she trips and falls down the stairs. Or you
and
just see like the
dies.
books fly, which is great.
And she
Oh,
dies, and the rest of the show, she's a ghost.
oh, great. Great
That
premise.
ghost girl.
See, season 3, making your lead character a ghost, ambitious. No one's done it before. Here
This
comes.
is the era of Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie.
Love it.
Have a ghost. That girl.
Ghost
That
and
girl.
Mrs. Muir, Ghost and Ted Bessel. So then we get the opening credits, which are like great theme song, just iconic. Like her in New York, just not New York in the 60s. Like,
Oh,
it's just beautiful. It's a lovely little slice of
you
life.
could smell Andy Warhol.
And garbage. Brings like a lot of garbage. Um, so then we get to the actual episode. We open up at Anne Marie's apartment and knock at the door. She's like studying. She's like cramming for the test.
She
uh,
wants to vote with as much ammunition as she can, which honestly, she should be reading the newspaper because all the things that Nixon's doing are in the newspaper. Everything that's
yeah,
happening, you know.
or they'll be in the newspaper in like 4 years.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, he was
But I'm sure he ain't doing anything good right in 1968 either.
I mean, still in
Uh,
Congress.
um, I also could imagine doing this kind of voting for this research for local elections. Because as we find out, she is very keen on understanding like every issue, and she is staunchly against down ballot party voting, unless
Yeah.
you are informed on every issue and know every candidate. So that makes more sense why she's studying. It isn't just a comical thing. It is.
Well, you in New York now, you can't do straight ticket voting anymore.
Excuse me, what?
Aha. No, I don't think you can just vote for one party. I think you have to fill in the circle for all the candidates. It's not like the days where you'd have to go into the booth and you could just, pick Democrat, Republican and pull the lever and you get the entire
Oh,
slate. You
oh,
have to do
that.
you have to do each individual
Oh, yeah, but
name.
you can still
Yeah.
vote
Oh yeah,
single
yeah.
part. Yeah, but
No,
it's just like a lot more bubble filling.
no one's like twisting your arm saying, "No, you gotta pick someone from working party."
Uh, so Donald shows up, and he shows up in a costume. Wait, well, he shows up in like what looks like a black road cone hat, and then like his teeth blacked out, and he like makes a silly face, and she just like flat out doesn't notice, and he's like, "Wow, it'd be crazy if I put on a hat and blacked out my teeth and got to react like he's."
Yeah, I guess it was a Halloween costume, kind of like a simpleton
Well, yeah,
kind of
just yeah,
thing,
yeah,
like
and he
a
was just
little
like a little
Abner,
joke. Um,
kind of thing. Uh,
and Anne Marie's reaction is like, "What are your opinions on the migratory farm worker, the plight of?"
yeah, and then she says, "What are your opinions on civil rights?" And he says, "I have some.
Wait, doesn't he say I'm for them or something?
I'm
Like,
for them, yeah,
yeah.
but let's discuss it in the
It's like
car
thank
because
God.
they're supposed to go visit her parents for Halloween. It's Halloween night. They're going to drive 2 hours out of the Upper East Side to Brewster, New York. And now I'm curious, where is Brewster, New York? Because I
Because
should
it's
know. I
trick,
should
yeah.
look that up.
Because they want to like help people, trick or treat. Donald is like, you're going overboard. He calls her Everett Dirksen,
I
who
don't
I
know.
assume was a senator, probably from New York.
Brewster is right on the border between Connecticut and New York, north of North Salem.
Oh, so it's not on Long Island, it's on the mainland. What the fuck
Yeah,
is
it's
mainland?
it's pretty far up. It's just a few miles from Thrills High Flying Adventure Park.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Uh, but then in a bit of foreshadowing, they start to leave, and Anne Marie forgets her purse.
dum dum dum.
That's gonna come up later.
It's a good episode. They had foreshadowing.
Tight script.
Can you imagine other series? Can you imagine the Brady Bunch doing this?
Oh,
Gilligan's
so
Island? No.
funny. So Richard Bayer, who wrote this episode, he wrote for like every sitcom, just like a ton of them. And it is why he wrote for the Munsters and Bewitched, and he wrote for That Girl. So like that's those shows pull humor from very different places.
Yes. But
So
interestingly enough, the director, John Rich, was a big director on another progressive sitcom, which was All in the Family.
so he
So
goes on to that.
yeah, a little bit of the same flavor. So the same liberal flavor.
So when they get to the house, and then Amory, like, she's excited. And also, like, her parents are, like, excited for her of, like, oh, it's your first election to vote in. Oh, do you want to, what was your first election to vote in?
The first election that I voted in was, let me think. It wasn't, I guess it must have been 1998.
Oh, local.
Was that no.
I was like, oh, dedicated.
No, I'm sorry, 2000. I was in college. Um, I voted for, I'm not going to tell you who I voted for in the year
Oh,
2000.
oh, wow. What state were
Um,
you in?
I was in New York.
Oh, okay.
So
Pennsylvania. Um,
yeah, so Hillary Clinton was up for election. She did win that.
Good. Well, that's,
But I mean, no,
uh,
I voted for Al Gore.
yeah. Um, I was eligible in 2004, but because I come from a incredibly conservative, but also apolitical, because like nothing matters. It's a very strange vibe. Um, I did not vote because no one in my family was talking about voting or being like, oh, you can like it was just like a non-issue, so I just didn't. And then it got then because I feel guilt about that to this day. So 2008 was my first one.
I
So if
voted.
y'all are out there and you are thinking about not voting, take it from someone who did not in 2004, you'll regret it.
Oh, I take that back. I did not. I couldn't vote for Hillary Clinton in 2000 because I was still registered in Pennsylvania and I had to do an absentee ballot for
Mm.
Pennsylvania. So I don't recall who I voted for because
Who are those
honestly,
people?
because I was living in New York and I did not I wasn't affected by who was, governing Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I was more under the effect of Hillary Clinton.
So when they get there, they like then it comes up like, oh, you're registered. And she
What
starts asking her dad about like urban renewal, and he has a joke about it, et cetera, et cetera. Then it becomes, well, how did you register? She's like, with America.
Yeah, she's very cagey about it. She doesn't want to let anyone know what she's voted at, which is legit. She just says, I don't want to tell people who I voted for. It's a secret ballot. It's between me and America.
And she says,
And
like, well, if I tell you what party I registered with, then you'll assume who I'm voting for, and that isn't necessarily the case, like, et cetera. She
yeah,
registered Democrat. Let's just be fucking honest here. Like, I mean,
and
like,
we
let's just read
and
the
we can
context
understand
clues.
her dad voted registered
Your dad
Republican.
is
Come on.
100% voting for Nixon. Let's be on, because he's like, it's how I voted, it's how my father voted, and it
Yes.
seems very
So this is,
uh
I mean, it's playing a little bit with the generational divide that was really happening in America between the older Republicans and the younger Students for Democratic Society.
yeah.
Um, the
And so I did a lot of research trying to figure out where Marlo Thomas stood in the 1968 election. First of all, I do want to point out, like, first of all, Marlo Thomas was married to Phil Donahue for like what 30 years. And Phil
Yeah, he did.
Donahue, famously, one of the very first like television news personalities to have gay people on his show and treat them with respect, and was very, very, very staunchly pro queer rights in the 80s.
Which
So
shocked people.
yeah, we
Like
love Phil Donahue.
we love Phil Donahue, but I remember at the time that was like, can you believe he did that? And it's
Yeah.
like, what? Now we're just like, whatever, who cares? But like, it was a serious thing that he had homosexuals on
Yes.
television.
Uh
He was very famously liberal.
yeah,
Uh,
so like there's that. And then but then on her Wikipedia page it does list that in November 2014 the Marlo Thomas Center for Global Education and Collaboration was opened as part of St. Jude's. Hillary Clinton presided over the ribbon cutting ceremony. And then on November 24th, 2014, President Barack Obama awarded Thomas the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the
okay.
nation's highest civilian honor. Like, you'll love to see it. Now, Ethan, do you think that I found anything about Marlo Thomas's political views in 1968?
I don't think you did.
Oh, baby, you're wrong.
I
So
love being wrong.
I did that. I did. On October 13th, 1968. So that is, I mean, less than a month from the election, 2 weeks ish before this episode airs, or more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, so in an interview titled "Actors Should Speak Out,"
Hey,
love where this
hey.
is going. Uh, the really patronizing interviewer John Heisner. Oh boy, I'll get to that in a second. This being the big year of politics, and because she had at one time campaigned in a couple of states for Senator Robert Kennedy. Love it. And remind you, this is the good Robert Kennedy. I like this Robert Kennedy. And oh boy, oh boy, you know, who am I to say what growing up without a father does to soul? It's getting dark. I'm sorry.
I would say that the apple fell far from the tree and is now in orbit around a different planet.
Oh God. The conversation naturally drifted around to actors who become involved in politics. She believes that actors should speak out just as anybody else. Should an actor have to forfeit his rights to free speech just because he is an actor? Of course not. But what about then the guy's like, well, what about actors influencing elections? Like, if John Wayne said something like, and she's like, yeah, that argument is always used. But again, I ask, do we have to give up our right to speak just because we are actors instead of something else?
Yeah.
And then the author is just like stalemate. It's like, you're damn right.
Now,
Yeah, and so like,
John Wayne famously did have things to say about the youth at the time. He was not
what?
pro democracy. He was
What?
very, you kids better shut the fuck up,
And go to war
go to war.
like I
You
did in all those movies.
how absolutely fucking dare you tear apart college administration buildings, show some respect to your elders. Um
Yeah.
there's a great speech if you can find it where he's just kind of stumbling through a whole lot of just insults at young people. He very famously did speak out against draft dodgers and protesting youth.
So the interview continues because as the interview notes, the show has grown so much from season 1 to season 3, becoming the kind of show we're talking about right now, which is a political episode. Um, she says, and before you ask, we're not going to have Anne-Marie marry Donald. To marry Donald. That would change the entire concept of the series. It would no longer be the girl with her own apartment who is striving to establish herself on her own and who is trying to get ahead. It then would be just another situation comedy about some newlyweds. Love you, Marlo Thomas, but then you better believe John Heisner, this writer, says Miss Thomas. Oh God, Miss Thomas. Jesus Christ. Editing. Miss Thomas is more than just the star of the series. She is a partner along with 4 men in the project. She is head of Daisy Productions, which created the series and handles it now, which shows that a gal can have a fine head on the inside as well as the outside.
What? John Heights, come on.
But it's just like she has this entire thing of like, I just argued you to a stalemate on whether or not actors should speak out. I then was like, this show is going to remain about an independent woman, and then you're like, but hey, those are good ideas, about as pretty as your face. Shut up.
In the series, she did get engaged to Don in the last
Yeah,
season,
yeah.
but made it a point not to get married. And in the novelization after the fact,
Ooh,
because there was a spin-off animated series.
I didn't know that. I don't think I know that.
Sorry, I to blow your mind like that. They did an animated spin-off entitled, if I can find it. It's gonna be forever for me to find it. Um, but oh yes, it was called That Girl in Wonderland. It was 1973. Marlo Thomas did the voice.
Hmm.
Um, but there was a novel in 1971 called That Girl, and she was engaged in that one. A spin-off novel. Crazy cool, right?
I need to find that and buy it.
Yeah.
So then we get all the political talk because her dad cannot handle that she's not going to tell him who she's going to vote for, what she registered as. He's like, fathers come before the Constitution. I don't care what that says. Tell me, don't disgrace, me and your grandfather. And just like, and the meat of the argument is during a really funny scene, I thought, of them doing the trick or treating, of them doing the handing out the candy. Where
Which
like,
is, did you see the candy that they had? Popcorn
no,
balls. You
that's
cannot, you should not give out popcorn balls these days, folks.
no. Also, were they wrapped in something?
They made them themselves, and I believe that they wrapped them, which
Okay, good. Because
should
don't
not.
just drop like a loose popcorn ball into a bag of candy. Uh, so they like come up with a point and like clash a little bit. The doorbell rings. Anne Marie gets up with the candy, opens the door. Some kids are like, trick or treat. And she gets distracted by her dad. Does her dad keep closing the door?
The dad keeps closing the door because he's arguing with her.
He's like, I'm arguing with you. Rings again, opens
Same
it up.
kids, same
Same
kids, same three
kids.
kids.
And then it happens again. The third time, rule of threes. It is the dad, Lou, opens the door and he's like, what? Haven't you guys already been here before? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, don't get greedy. And then closes the door. And the look on the lead kid's face of just like pain and confusion as the door is slammed in his face is hilarious.
I want to let everyone know the costumes that these three children were
Oh
wearing.
my
On the
God.
left
Oof.
is a witch with some dirt on her face and a cape and she has a shirt on it that also has a picture of a witch.
Of course, gotta have the
The
picture on the front.
child in the middle has a shirt with a clown on it. He has a tall hat and a bunch of angles drawn on his face. And the third child is a skeleton, and the skeleton costume itself is holding the skeleton's skull, but he also has his regular head because you can't take your own head off if you're a kid.
No.
And for some reason, that
Unless you're
the
Marilyn
kid's head,
Manson.
ah, but for some reason, that kid has a goatee and a mustache.
This is what I want to. So like, this is where I start getting galaxy brained or whatever. I start thinking like, so we have fabric now, and they had fabric then, and we have clothes now and clothes then. So why do all Halloween costumes from before 1980 look like they were pulled out of a dumpster off of a corpse? Like even what Donald was wearing, even that weird hat he had looked like trash. And then all three of these costumes look like trash, and not just like, they didn't try. No, they look like actual garbage. And this is just like also the mask from Lassie. That weird
Yeah.
mask he wore. It's just like this looks like a melted piece of crap.
I don't know why
What is it?
you have to supplement a witch costume with a smear of like shoe polish on your cheek. What does that do? What does
What
that get you?
what was the aesthetic? What were y'all going for back then?
I don't know.
It's
There was a
wild.
war on.
I will say, like, we can shade all the 80s costumes, which is just like vinyl jumpsuit with like picture of Luke Skywalker on the chest and then a plastic mask of Luke Skywalker.
Did you have one of those?
No, because my mom was a seamstress and she handmade all of my Halloween costumes, baby.
I will admit to buying one of those because I wanted so bad the Orko mask. From
Oh.
Masters of the Universe, I thought Orko, I was 5 years old, 6 years old. I thought the Orko and his goofy shenanigan shit on that show was hilarious. I thought the comic relief was the reason to watch Masters of the Universe. And lo and behold, in the Kmart, there was an Orko mask and a big tarp, a serape that had Orko's face and the word Orko on it. And
Just like in
I
the
was
show.
Orko. Yeah, he wore that all the time. It was fucking great.
But it does make sense to be like, no one's going to ask me what I am because it's right there. It's Orko.
Well, anyone who was answering the door would probably have zero idea who Masters of the Universe
Well, I guess
were.
it should be Orko from Masters of the Universe. Check your local listings.
A show that you don't watch because you are in your 70s.
Oh God. So basically, like, so then like the argument boils down to The dad is, I did not know that lever pulling meant that it was just like Republican, Democrat. I
Well, you
didn't,
didn't have to. You didn't have to do that. You
yeah, but I didn't
could.
even know. I thought, I didn't know. I didn't know. That's
This
crazy.
is this is going to blow your mind. In seventh grade, they brought a voting machine into the hallway of my middle school, and they had a demonstration of how to use
Huh.
one of the original not the original voting machine, but like 1990s voting machine where you have to pull the levers, and it wasn't multiple levers. It was like little small levers for your each of your candidates. You flipped, it was on, let's say it was on a neutral position. You could switch, you could turn the knob to the candidate that you
So
preferred.
it's not a
And
crank. It's not a like,
but once you were all
oh,
done, you could pull the big lever and your vote would be counted. But
sounds
you
so
could
that
also there was
satisfying.
also a lever where you could just vote the entire slate a straight ticket Republican Democrat and then pull the big lever. It would like automatically turn all of the small levers to that candidate, and you would do that.
Wow. So like that is where this whole argument comes from, is because the dad is like, you just vote straight party. Why would you not? Like what or like, and Anne has the what Anne lives in the world that I wish we lived in, which was, I want to educate myself on the candidates and their positions and the issues and then vote how I feel. Which, baby, I wish we lived in a two-party system where one party one party wasn't uh the American Nazi Party. Can I say that?
Yeah.
I mean, like, well, Madison Square Rally coming up. Like, it is. I, baby, it's weird. We live in weird times because I do agree with Anne, in that, like, yeah, you should know where the candidates are, et cetera, et cetera. I wish we lived in a world where like Democrat didn't mean not gonna destroy the world, and Republican meant burn baby drill
Yeah.
baby burn. Um,
Drill
but we
Baby
do
Burn. That's a
drill,
great album name.
but like that's the world that we live in. And
There's
so
a whole
yeah, so it's a whole thing.
The last third of the episode ends up being about physical comedy and not about the political realities of 1968. And I think it
Well,
was that's why I like the episode is that it had really good dialogue with Dad and Anne Marie going back and forth and Don
oh,
jumping in
I
there and
love.
Mom jumping in there.
So let's talk about the vibe, because Donald's energy in those, I love Ted Bessel's great. Also handsome. I mean, could have been Steve Rogers if they were playing casting in 1968, honestly. Just
Ooh,
handsome man. I love that his energy with Anne is very like equal playing field, playful, like ribbing, a little bit of like annoyance, but like affection. You understand their relationship. But then I love that as soon as he gets to Anne's parents' house, he's just like, he says the wrong thing. He makes a weird face. He's just like, the immediately when he realizes, oh no, Lou and Anne are going to be fighting about this. The look on his face when they're carving the pumpkin, he's like, oh God, it's great.
he really comes off as the dopey nice guy that you kind of wish would be your son-in-law, but also dread being your son-in-law. Like he
Yeah.
is completely, absolutely devoted to your daughter. Like he absolutely is. There's no other woman for him. He is he is going along with every scheme that she has.
And she
He
does
is
games.
so he is the perfect future son-in-law. But at the same time, he's also kind of goofy. So you're looking at him like this dumbass can't do things right.
Yeah. He
This
is a
dumbass.
copywriter. He's an ad man.
Hey,
But
so
it's a really great dynamic that we also don't really see all that often, because like I'm trying to think, like, it is kind of rare on sitcoms where a dad is kind of just like straight up mean to his child. Because like Lou is kind of, when she gets stuck up in the tree later, he's mean to her. Like,
he's upset.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
the foreshadowing we saw before, where she left her purse at home, comes back to she leaves her purse at her parents' house in Brewster. They
yeah.
drive 2 hours all the way back to the city, get
Because
to
they
her
leave early
apartment.
because she's like,
Mm-mm,
I'm out of here.
mm-mm.
Which
Don't like dad.
also, like, they because they were going to spend the weekend, and now she's like, bye. Which relatable content.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, I mean, like this whole, hey, we all got parrots. They all got different views, even though you don't understand why. It's fun. It's also fun to talk about while I'm dressed like a woman. So like it's a real thing, and like so they get home at like 9, and Donald's like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, we can get there around say like 1 or
11.
11, yeah.
11, which means we'll
11 will
get
be back at
home.
1.
We'll get
Okay,
back at
cool, cool,
1.
cool. Great, 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 great.
It's not a school night because they were going to stay over anyway, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, we
it's
forgot to
still
mention
good.
that right after the Halloween night, we go to the morning when the fight that causes her to leave is, and they're cleaning up toilet paper, graffiti. This is like cheap, cheap, no treats at this house. Like the kids just totally wrecked the house. So
Oh,
that was
yeah.
a fun little joke that I had to bring up. But anyway, yes.
Also, her dad accuses her of being an anarchist.
Yeah, he's like, you took my daughter and turned her into an anarchist.
Well,
I mean, when
um,
I had to tell, I was thinking about this the other day. And when Fahrenheit 9/11 came out, I think I was working at the movie theater. And so I like I took my friends because I could get myself and 3 guests in for free. So we all went to see Fahrenheit 9/11. And then when I got home, my mom was like, "Oh, so what movie did y'all see?" And because I can't lie, I was just like, "We saw Fahrenheit 9/11." And she was like, "Don't let your father know."
wow.
Um, so
I was
I,
living in North Carolina when that movie came out, um, and seeing it in the theater with somebody who was in New York City and who worked at that building was an experience. I'm just
ooh.
gonna leave it at that.
Mm.
Um,
So they get back to the house, and Anne's parents aren't there because they're probably out for a walk, as she says. And they're like, "Well, we'll sit and wait for them." She's like, "No, I don't want to see him. I'll break into this house."
Brilliant idea, Anne Marie. Break into your parents' house. There are no police. No one stops her. She tries to jimmy a window open with Don's pen, which snaps. Can't get in. So she has the idea, I used to live here. I could probably get into my old bedroom because it's my room. I
Yeah.
have permission to get in to break into my room. She try she tries climbing a tree to get to her bedroom and cannot reach the bedroom and also cannot get down. She is stuck in a
She's stuck in
tree
that.
like a
She's stuck in
cat.
that tree. And then she's like, "Go to the fire department 2 blocks down, get a ladder." And Donald's like, "If I were to go now and never return, you would understand," which is good.
She gives uh, she gives not confusing directions, but complex directions. So, like, if this was in Boston, he'd never get there. But
Oh God, no.
he does come back with the ladder.
Well, the parents
They
come
the
back,
parents come
and
back
she
first.
overhears like the mother talking, Helen talking like, "You need to apologize." Like, like, what are you like? And you need to apologize to Donald. And he's like, "Oh, him too?" Like, it's like, and he's also rocking a casual ascot
He goes for
because,
a walk in the evening with a casual ascot. They go for a
yeah,
walk in the evening, which shows you so much about this neighborhood.
yes. So
Good
then
sidewalks, well lit.
Donald comes
No
back with the
crime.
ladder. And then they realize Amory's up in the tree, and then the dad is basically like, he's kind of like goading her to hit her to apologize to him. It is very he calls her Miss Independent, like
He calls her Miss Independence,
dense.
which was Danny
The
Thomas's nickname for his daughter Marlo and was almost going
the
to
title,
be the title of that girl.
but they were like, it sounds too much like a musical, so no.
Not doing
uh,
that.
so then she comes down. she's torn like a hole in her pants and stuff because like the next scene is them back at the dinner table and you see the mother is sewing up the pants. I
And Anne
realize
Marie's dressed in just a blanket
she has
around
like
her.
her shirt and then a blanket.
Yeah.
And then we get a I loved this scene because it shows like Emery doesn't she basically is just like, okay, daddy, I'll who are you voting for? I'll just vote how you vote. And it's such a great fake out because she still is so like sweet. Like you can kind of believe that she would say that, but you also know, oh, she's reverse psychologying him.
It's
And
a trap.
it's so good. He's like, well, mom's like, no, don't do like no. He's like, I raised you to be an independent thinker, et cetera, et cetera. And then he's like, oh, okay.
I see what you're doing, Anne Marie. You should vote
Which
your
is
conscience.
also a point that I love that the show makes is yes, you raised her that way, which I relate to in in the fact that my parents were always like, well, you're going to go to college, we didn't go to college, your sister didn't go to college, you're going to college, you're going to focus on school, your sister worked in high school, you're not because you're focusing on studies, you're focusing on everything, and then I go to college famously the place where they turn you gay and liberal and into a drag queen.
I was going to
uh,
say, look at you
Look
now.
at me now. I went
You're
to
the only one
college.
who went to college, and there you are.
I'm the only one that
Burn.
can wear makeup. No, yeah. So, but it's I want keep wanting to be like y'all, the ones that made me go to college where I would learn how to think independently and like question things.
It's not that you're being indoctrinated. I think that's the whole like fear from people who don't go to college is, oh, the professors are telling you liberal things. That's not
No,
what it is. It's that you're rubbing elbows with people who are outside of your normal
and
insular social group. And you're
the whole thing,
discovering that
like
these people are people as
people,
well. They're your friends. They're
yeah,
people that you want to spend time with and you want to impress, and you don't have to toe the party line, so to speak.
it's annoying. And then like they're like, oh, and stay the night. Y'all are already here. Like, let's continue the plan. And then they say, like, are we welcome here? Which, again, on the eve of an election about this time 8 years ago, I
Yeah.
was I was told something the opposite of this. So things,
Oh,
but yeah. But as is evidenced by this episode, uh traumas or like events that are larger than the argument you're having bring you back together or like make you put things into perspective and can lead to healing. And it sucks that it takes like trauma for that to happen. Um, but like if that's how you have to heal, you have to heal. In this case, it was Anne getting stuck in a tree. Uh, in my case, it was like my dad dying and my sister apologizing for everything while we were at the funeral.
I did not know that
Yeah,
happened.
so like yeah, it's wild stuff.
The
But then
times
they're
they are
like,
a changing.
we're gonna go return the ladder. And they're like, Donald's like, you forgot something. And she's like, no, I have my purse. He's like, you forgot your pants.
Dun 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 dun. That
Um,
girl.
and then the stinger posits. So then it's just Donald and Anne, and they voted and they come back. And this posits, I understand their relationship so thoroughly until this. Where she's like, "Oh, who'd you vote for?" He's like, "We're keeping that secret." She's like, "Well, I mean, like we did the secret ballot, and like we kept it a secret, and now we can
Yeah.
tell." And then she's like, "Wait a second, no. If you voted for someone and I didn't vote for them, then essentially our votes cancel each other out, and therefore it's like I didn't even vote." And he's like, "I mean, yeah, kinda."
Yeah. Which means
Imagine not knowing who your long-term partner it voted for in the 1968 presidential election.
that is in itself terrifying. So much. We think we know Don. We think that we have a good grasp on Don and perhaps his politics. Although he is being very dodgy when she asks him questions about migrant farm worker crisis and civil
He
rights.
does say he's for civil rights. Just one of okay. So therefore, maybe he's not for. I don't know, liberal bias, but I'm like they have to have both voted for Humphrey, unless they were like we hate that name. Nixon is a
Spoilers,
killer.
Humphrey lost.
Humphrey lost, and I mean, honestly, like my husband and I were commiserating because all we do is watch MSNBC, baby. Chris Hayes, give me a call. Let's get married. Uh, no, I'm already married. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you could really trace all of our problems back to Gerald Ford pardoning Nixon. If he
Yeah.
hadn't done that, what dominoes knocked down?
Oh,
You
that's
know?
a question for alternative history,
Yeah, fun.
speculative fiction writers.
Uh,
Yeah.
which I'm
I,
sure has happened. There was a really good podcast. Oh, I think the very first season of Slow Burn was about the Nixon impeachment, and it was fascinating, very good. And I remember sitting in the Chipotle down in the village, and just being angry about just like the whole reason that he got impeached is because Republicans finally had enough, and they finally like agreed to. The Republicans now won't do that.
Country over party.
It's never going to be enough.
If you get a
Um,
chance to watch HBO's The White House Plumbers,
hmm.
um, great series with Woody Harrelson and Justin Theroux and a whole host of just like other guest stars. Everybody in it is a name or a face that you've seen somewhere else.
But that is it, and we can safely say that Emery did not save the '68 election.
No, but she went on and did other good things. Her work with St. Jude's Children's Hospital has been commemorated by Hillary Clinton and Barack
Yeah,
Obama. Her fight against gender stereotypes brought her to national attention with Free
she
to
won
Be.
a couple of awards as like a trailblazer in television.
Yeah.
So we love Marlo Thomas.
If
Uh,
anyone ever gets the chance to dig up the old um Free to Be You and Me, you've got some amazing performances by some amazing performers. You got Michael Jackson, you've got
hmm.
Mel Brooks. Um, I'm trying to remember some of the others. Because it's really is just an all-star cavalcade of stars reading stories and singing songs
Hmm.
about skewing gender stereotypes.
Hey,
Boys can be airline hostesses, girls can
yes,
be big
cigarette
athletes.
smoking admin, tobacco salesman. um, are you ready for some must-have facts that'll
Oh
blow
my
your
God.
mind? I don't know.
Yeah, let's do it up.
Well, I have no idea what the ratings were for this episode because that girl was not in the top 20. And for some reason, they were not reporting on like all the ratings. It was annoying. That girl wasn't like a big hit show. It was like culturally big, and I think its legacy is large, but like it wasn't,
It lasted 130, I want to say the 135
I think it
episodes
went 5 seasons.
over five
Yeah.
seasons. Yeah.
So like, it did good. It did fine. Um, the top five episodes this week were Bonanza, the Red Skelton Hour, the Jackie Gleason Show, the Walt Disney Hour, and Laugh-In. I didn't check to see what was airing on Walt Disney Hour that week.
Hmm.
Oh well. So do you want to hear what ABC's Thursday night lineup was tonight?
Yeah, I'm curious now.
Ooh, baby. It leads off with the ugliest girl in town, which is essentially a proto bosom buddies. So representation matters. Then the flying nun, bewitched, that girl, and then immediately after this fucking episode of that girl, Nixon political talk special for 90 minutes. A pro Nixon pack bought network time after this episode of that
Oh,
girl.
I guess that shows that that girl had mixed viewership.
Yeah. They would want to reach this like young, like female audience. Yeah, because I feel like Nixon ain't doing well with young women. I don't know.
Nixon
Maybe
wasn't
he
doing
did.
well with the youth anyway. There was that famous moment where he left the White House at night and just found some students. I want to say it was like by the monuments. He was out there by himself and
How?
he just like escaped and he just talked to them, but he didn't talk about politics, which is what they wanted to talk about. He wanted to talk about football.
He's like,
So he
baby,
was he was very out of step with
it's
the
like, baby,
country.
you ain't normal no more. You're a president.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Yeah, so what a knee jerk. I wonder how Marlo Thomas felt about that. So what are you watching tonight? On ABC, we got That Girl. That girl is a first time voter. She reads magazines and volumes of the congressional record and refuses to tell her father how she registered. The resulting argument isn't settled until a lost purse literally leaves Marlo Thomas up a tree. Why tell every part of the episode? Wild. On CBS is a movie called The Nanny. um,
Okay.
and the description is one of those sick suspense chillers, which gives Betty Davis ample opportunity to roll her eyes and chew her cud. And NBC Ironside. Milton Berle co-authored this Ironside script in which he also stars. He plays one of those vicious TV interviewers about to run for Senate, but he has a burning stomach, an alcoholic wife, and a researcher who despises him. Also, there's someone who wants to kill him. Raymond Burr, against his will, is assigned to protect the man, and this is the best bet for the night.
I'm not seeing any of them because Cream is playing at the Fillmore East, and I'm going to see Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker, and Jack Bruce on their second U.S. tour
Did you just
play the
look up
Fillmore East.
who's playing at the Fillmore on Halloween?
Yes, I did. Come on, the Fillmore is going to be playing something for Halloween 1968. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a faggot. I'm watching That Girl,
You're
obviously.
watching that girl.
Because I've
No
seen The Nanny.
class. Boo. Go
Mm.
Cream.
So on IMDb, 48 Maniacs rated this a 6.5 out of 10. Uh, so Ethan, you rated Lassie a 6.8. How does That Girl stack up?
This is a tough one because I really did like the UNICEF story. Um,
UNICEF or St. Jude?
I will give this a 6.8 because it was 1968.
That's
That's a I think it's worth it. I think it's worth a 6.8. It's a very good episode. It's not, pee your pants funny, but at the same time, it's really well written. It actually has a really good third act
yeah,
that I wasn't expecting with the whole getting caught in the tree thing. Good performances literally by everybody.
yeah. That's
Um,
hard to choose one.
and it had an appearance by Penny Marshall before she was, huge.
8.7, bitch. What are you talking? Like, come on, this is great. I
8.7?
8.7. I love this episode. This
You
is
know what? I think I am probably
smart,
doing it. I'm doing it too low. I'm doing it too
era
low.
appropriate.
7.3. Let's give it a 7.3.
Okay.
Give it a 7.3. It was really good. Um, I guess that like the downside is it felt kind of short and it felt like they were kind of talking around the point a little bit.
Well, you never find out either who the dad's voting for, which is
Yeah,
smart. I mean, like it's but it's like it's so obvious.
because the generation gap, the youth were
Yeah.
voting one way and the last generation were voting another way.
Who had the must-see performance in this episode?
Oh, I mean, come on now. Is Don.
Oh, yeah.
Is Ted
I
Bessel. Although I gotta say, Lou Parker did a really good job
I
as the dad.
he is great. In every episode he's in, he is great. I wish the mother got more to do. Uh oh boy. I mean, I want to say God, you know what? I will give it to Marlo Thomas because I do think like it's a very thin like threading the needle of like being of not being cloying essentially, like
Yeah,
someone who's like that eager, that wants to know everything and is also like that righteous. I mean, she says like it's our sacred duty a lot. The last line of this episode is like, isn't it great living in a democracy? It is. Fingers crossed. So
preserve
like
that democracy.
I give it to her because like it's such a hard role. She does it great. I love her.
Yeah,
And
I could easily be swayed to the Marlo Thomas camp on this one. And
and
I probably Ted Bessel was probably a knee-jerk reaction because he did pretty well in this, and I felt like he was very supportive. But performance-wise, Lou Parker did a better job, and Marlo Thomas probably did a better job than Lou Parker.
yeah, it's good that there's like it's hard to tell. But I also like to give it to the little kid, the lead little kid, because
Pikachu.
that face he makes when it's just like, all my dreams are dashed. What is happening?
Pikachu.
What Twilight Zone have I ended up in? He still talks about that 40 years later. He's like, there's this one house. We went 3 times, knocked on the door, and he finally just clicked. What the fuck? Uh,
I
and
love
must
this
other
too.
people see this episode?
I was gonna say, I love that it was a very small cast.
Yeah,
It was the four main characters and three kids. And I guess there was the librarian and Penny Marshall too. I
at the
forgot about
very
them.
beginning. And then, the specter of Richard Nixon and
Yeah.
the inference of Hubert Humphrey.
And all the casualties of Vietnam
Oh God.
up to that
Also,
point.
must other people see this episode?
Yeah. I'd say that I liked this one better than the Thanksgiving episode that we saw.
Oh,
I thought it was
yeah.
very I thought it was very prescient for the time. I think that it was well acted, well written. The dialogue was so crisp and very poignant even today. So I would say that it's an episode that if you're going to be watching That Girl, it might be a little didactic, but at the same time, it's well done.
And yeah, it's great. I love it. Yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
watch it. It's also one of the rare, like, this is an election and Halloween episode, which is why I was like, we got to do that. Listen to the upfronts episode where we were like, well, we have to do, because right now, baby, we're in the roller coaster.
Yeah.
But
In the home stretch.
Ethan, where can people find you on the internet if they want to talk about that girl and Hubert Humphrey?
You can find me at EthanK55 on Instagram. I am posting content about my cats. They are adorabibbles. But Barb, where can people find you? Do you
Well,
have a
you
social
can.
media
Oh
presence?
God, yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Barb Harley. You can also follow my YouTube channel, which is Barb Harley, and subscribe to my Patreon, Barb Harley. And why not check out Must Have Seen TV's YouTube channel and be sure to join us on Patreon at patreon.com/musthavectv. Just $5 a month. Q, the Sarah McLachlan, gets you a ton of bonus content, including bi-weekly episodes of the companion podcast Must Have Now TV, where we give recommendations for things that we're enjoying currently, and other goodies that go beyond the seeds of old television.
I'd like to thank the brilliant designer, illustrator Dynamo for all of our great podcast art. You'll find it all over the internet. Thanks to the five Smith brothers for our theme song, I'm in Favor of Friendship. Originally sung by Danny Thomas, Marlo Thomas's
Mm-hmm.
dad. Thanks to
Terrible.
Acast for hosting the podcast. We ask that you like and subscribe wherever you listen to us to get all the latest must have seen TV, Barb, Brett, and Ethan content. Leave us comments and reviews. We might even respond to your comment on the show or even take your suggestions for the upcoming episodes.
And join us in 2 weeks where it's Thanksgiving time, and we're going to be talking about the Alice episode, which I'll. Oh, I don't have my glove ain't working. It's okay. Here we'll be talking about the Alice episode. Who ordered that hot turkey? Which is fun, and we'll be living in brand new world.
Brand new world.
Oh boy. And so, well, that's it. I can't. My gloves. Thank y'all for hanging out, and we will see y'all again next time on Must Have Seen TV.
Bye, everybody.